based on a true story. Ari has always been obsessed with music. Every day he would hang around the cassette shop near his house, just watching music programs and soaking it all in. He grew up with two brothers, Pepe and Angelo, and their family struggled to get by. Money was so tight that the three boys often helped their father, Pasquale, stretch beer by mixing it with tea water, then selling it at the market. After they finished mixing the drinks, Ari and his brothers begged to go to the market with their dad. At first, Pasquale refused. He was afraid they would get caught and end up in serious trouble. But the boys kept pushing, and eventually he gave in. At the market, the family managed to fool the police without breaking a sweat. Pasquale's friend, seeing what these three kids could pull off for the first time, was impressed. He asked what Ari wanted to be when he grew up. Ari did not answer. He just went quiet. 9 years later, in 1985, Ari is grown up. One night, he tries to apply for a DJ job at a bar, but it goes nowhere. His look is a mess, his stage name sounds ridiculous, and he gets turned down. The next morning, he is back to work at the same cassette shop where he used to spend his childhood. Ari has a real talent, though. He can copy and blend songs from different tapes, then turn them into one smooth playlist on a single cassette. While making a custom tape for a customer, he thinks back to what happened at the bar, and he decides something has to change. He drops the name DJ Ari and starts calling himself Mixed by Ari. On his way home, Angelo tells him there's going to be a police operation nearby, a big raid to catch a major drug dealer. Ari wants to go check it out, but on the street, he bumps into three arrogant kids. They immediately start messing with him. Then it turns violent. They beat Ari badly and leave him bruised and broken. Angelo sees it happen and loses control. He grabs a rock and strikes one of the attackers, and just like that, Angelo ends up in prison. A few weeks later, Pepe gets married. The police allow Angelo to attend the wedding, but only briefly. When Angelo sees Ari, he talks about prison like it is a world he learned to survive. He says he adapted fast, made connections, even earned respect from serious criminals. Then he gives Ari a blunt warning. If Ari wants his life to change, if he does not want to spend forever guarding a cassette shop and living the same routine, he has to be willing to take risks. Ari hears him, and once again, he falls silent. A year passes. At work, Ari is shocked to see the shop being emptied out. When he asks what is happening, the owner explains he is retiring and has sold the business. Ari is stunned. He has no idea where he is supposed to go next. The owner tries to encourage him, telling him that with Ari's talent, he truly believes Ari will become a famous DJ someday. That same afternoon, Pepe is out with his friends, waiting for a shipment of illegal cigarettes to arrive by boat. The moment it shows up, the police appear out of nowhere. Everyone runs. Later, when Pepe gets home, he is surprised to find Ari there waiting for him. Ari explains he just lost his job, and he has an idea. He wants Pepe to partner with him, selling compilation cassettes that Ari can mix himself. Pepe reacts with skepticism. He knows Ari's compilations would sell, no doubt about it. But when he does the math, it looks impossible. Copying a single song takes an hour, and a compilation tape needs dozens of songs. The profit would never match the time. But then, Pepe's wife offers a simple thought. Instead of giving up, why not find a machine that can copy songs faster? The next day, the three of them went straight to a newspaper vendor to scan through classified ads for copying machines. They found one that could duplicate a song in just 2 minutes. It sounded perfect, except for one problem: the price was insanely high. Still, Pepe and Ari decided to take the risk. They borrowed money from a loan shark, and a few days later, Ari finally opened his own shop. Within 2 weeks, the place was packed almost every day. Business was booming. One afternoon, while Pepe was busy handling customers, a beautiful young woman named Teresa walked in looking for music recommendations. Ari instantly stepped in, listing song titles that matched exactly what she was searching for. He promised that if she came back, he would prepare a custom compilation just for her. When Teresa left, Ari felt like he was floating. That night, Ari, Pepe, and Pepe's wife sat down to count their earnings from the first 2 weeks. They were stunned. The profits were enough to pay off all their debt, and they still had about 3 million lira left over. That was when Ari had a bold idea. What if they borrowed even more money and expanded selling their compilation tapes all across Italy? As soon as he heard that, Pepe thought about his old friends in the illegal cigarette business. The following day, Pepe brought Ari to meet them. Instead of smuggling cigarettes, Pepe suggested they switch to selling Ari's compilation tapes. The profits were better, and they would not have to constantly run from the police. At that time, there were no clear laws about piracy or copyright, so selling copied cassette tapes was not technically illegal. Pepe told them that if they were interested, they could come to Ari's shop the following week. After securing another massive loan, 200 million lira this time, Ari and Pepe started producing tapes non-stop in their new store, which they proudly named Mixed by Ari. But when the next week arrived, none of the cigarette sellers showed up. Ari and Pepe were confused. Then a man suddenly walked into the shop, used the store phone, and handed it to Ari. On the other end was the cigarette boss himself. He was furious. He did not appreciate Ari trying to steal his sellers. He made it clear that if they kept pushing, he would have the shop burned down. For the first time since opening, Ari was genuinely scared. The next day, the whole family gathered at their parents' house to celebrate Angelo's release from prison. During dinner, while their mother and Pepe's wife were in the kitchen, Pepe brought up the threat from the cigarette boss. Pasquale listened carefully, then suggested something unexpected. Why not bring Angelo into the business? After prison, Angelo had grown tougher, braver. Pasquale believed he was ready to handle someone like the cigarette boss. That very night, after officially joining his brothers, Angelo wasted no time. He took them to a fireworks factory to gather materials and build homemade explosives. Then the three of them went straight to confront the cigarette boss. They did not just threaten him. They went as far as blowing up his warehouse, sending a very clear message about who was not to be messed with. A few weeks after the bombing, the cigarette boss stopped bothering them. He wanted no part of Ari's business anymore. By then, Ari had already moved his shop to a much larger location. He hired plenty of employees and filled the place with dozens of high-speed copying machines worth millions of lira. Months passed and Mixed by Ari kept growing. The money came in fast. Before long, the three brothers were successful enough to buy the latest Lamborghini. What started as a risky idea had turned into a full-blown empire. One night, Angelo invited Ari to his favorite bar. He told him that now was the perfect time to finally live his dream, to become a DJ while also promoting the Mixed by Ari brand. When Ari stepped onto the stage, he realized people already knew who he was. One well-known DJ even praised his compilation mixes. And in the middle of his set, Ari spotted Teresa in the crowd, watching him. After the show, he went to talk to her. He casually asked why she had never come back to his shop. She was clearly annoyed since the shop had moved and no one told her. Then she reminded him about the promise he once made to create a special compilation just for her. Ari brought her to his cassette production lab. He showed her some carefully selected tracks and talked her through his choices. The two of them ended up having a long, easy conversation, and the atmosphere shifted into something more personal. Just as Ari was about to lean in and kiss her, Pepe and Angelo suddenly showed up with urgent news. One of the mafia bosses had called. He wanted to meet them immediately. The three brothers left right away. When they arrived at the mafia boss's house, a photographer snapped a picture of them as soon as they stepped inside. The boss wasted no time. He explained that since Ari's business operated within his territory, it had to follow his rules. He offered protection in exchange for a share of the cassette profits. Ari asked for time to think about it. On the way home, the brothers argued. Ari and Angelo wanted to refuse the deal, but Pepe was worried. If they said no, the consequences might not stop with them. In the middle of their debate, they saw cars from another mafia group heading toward the same boss's house. The next day, the news reported a violent clash between two mafia factions. At the scene, a police captain named Riccardi found the photo that had been taken of Ari and his brothers the night before. From that moment on, Riccardi became curious about who these three men really were. A year later, in 1987, Angelo was celebrating his city's soccer victory when he received a message from Pepe. The laboratory was being raided. Police were confiscating several of their copying machines. That afternoon, the brothers gathered at the shop to figure out what to do. They were frustrated. Technically, they were not breaking any laws. There were still no official regulations against piracy. The next day, they went to a notary, established a formal company, and registered for taxes so the police would have no reason to interfere. To stay even safer, they rented 3 separate apartments to store their machines. It became a game of cat and mouse with the authorities, but as long as business kept running, they were satisfied. A month later, things seemed stable again. One night during a routine patrol, Riccardi came across a street vendor selling Mixed by Ari tapes. When he examined them, he was shocked. Some of the cassettes contained songs that had not even been officially released yet. The next morning, Riccardi filed a report insisting that this piracy syndicate had to be stopped immediately. If no one acted now, it would only grow bigger and harder to control. Unfortunately, his superiors did not see it the same way. There was still no clear law against piracy, so they told him not to overreact. Frustrated, Riccardi vented his anger alone in his car. Even without support, he refused to let it go. He headed straight to the Mixed by Airy shop. There, he confronted Airy and demanded to know where the new songs were coming from and how he was getting early access to unreleased tracks. Airy did not back down. He showed no fear and made it clear that Riccardi had no authority to question him, and that he was not obligated to answer anything. That only made Riccardi more furious. From that moment on, he swore he would personally see Airy behind bars one day. Meanwhile, in Milan, a cassette company's CEO named Arturo was reviewing his monthly sales report. Something caught his attention. He called his finance staff to double-check the numbers. It seemed impossible that someone had purchased hundreds of thousands of blank cassettes worth 5 billion lira, but the numbers were correct. Mixed by Airy had placed that massive order. The following day, Arturo invited Pepe, Airy, and Angelo to an elegant lunch in Milan. He welcomed them warmly and explained why he had called them in. He wanted to form a partnership. Arturo promised to guarantee a steady supply of blank cassettes as long as Mixed by Airy agreed to make his company their exclusive supplier. He also assured them he would offer the lowest prices. Airy accepted the deal. On the drive home, the three brothers were thrilled. They no longer had to worry about sourcing blank cassettes. Everything seemed secure. But suddenly, Airy asked to stop the car. He rushed into a music store across the street and his brothers followed. Inside, they saw something new. A different format for storing music, something called a CD. The sight drained the excitement from their faces. That night at home, Airy opened up to his wife Teresa. By this time, they were married. Seeing that new technology had shaken him, he realized he had ordered too many cassettes and had been so focused on rapid growth that he ignored the direction technology was heading. Feeling low, Airy wondered out loud if Teresa would still choose him if he were not the owner of Mixed by Airy. Teresa reassured him with warmth and humor. She reminded him that she was still waiting for the special compilation tape he once promised to make for her and never did. From the beginning, she had never cared about his status or his business. For her, love did not need a reason. Her words calmed him. Together, they hoped that CDs would not completely destroy cassette sales. 4 years later, in 1991, Airy and Teresa were baptizing their child. Arturo was there as well. By then, he had become one of Airy's most trusted partners, almost like family. After the baptism, Arturo excused himself in a hurry. The next day, he had to attend a major meeting with executives from the biggest record labels across Italy. At that meeting, the topic was clear from the start: piracy. The industry leaders were furious. They openly admitted that their biggest enemy was Mixed by Airy. Somehow, the sales of those pirated compilation tapes were outperforming the original albums from their own artists. But this time, they believed they finally had the upper hand. After months of pressuring the government, their demands had been approved. Starting that very day, a new copyright and anti-piracy law would officially take effect. When Arturo heard the announcement, he went silent. He knew that if anyone looked closely, they would discover that his own company had been supplying the blank cassettes, fueling Mixed by Airy's empire. It did not take long for the news to spread. Within hours, media outlets were broadcasting the approval of the new anti-piracy law. As soon as the meeting ended, Arturo rushed out. That night, he warned Airy that their business was now in serious danger. He advised shutting everything down, at least temporarily. Airy had already made more than enough money, but Airy stayed calm. He believed that no matter how strict the regulations became, piracy would never truly disappear. They just needed to be more careful. With that, he ended the conversation and sent Arturo home. Later, Airy met Pepe at a bar to talk about the situation. Pepe's opinion was no different. Yes, there was a new law, but it was still fresh and full of loopholes. According to the rules, sellers would only have their tapes and machines confiscated. Prison time was not guaranteed. To actually lock Airy up, the police would need to dismantle the entire operation or find a key witness. As long as they played smart, even if they were caught, they could likely walk free. Hearing that eased Airy's mind a little. To distract himself, he called Teresa and invited her to join him and his brothers at a music festival out of town the next day. What he did not know was that Riccardi had been wiretapping the call. The following day at the festival, Riccardi and his team were already positioned in a nearby building, watching closely. Before entering the venue, Airy made a phone call. Riccardi immediately ordered his men to monitor it. He was convinced this was the moment. Certain that Airy was arranging a deal for new, unreleased songs. If they caught him in the act, they would finally have solid proof. But once again, Riccardi was wrong. Ari was simply calling his mother. After hanging up, Ari noticed Arturo standing nearby. Something felt off. Arturo did not greet him the way he usually did. He just stood there, staring in silence. As Ari looked around, he realized there were far too many unfamiliar faces watching him. In that moment, it hit him. Maybe Arturo had been right all along. No matter how clever he was, no matter how long he managed to outsmart the police, sooner or later the system would catch up to him. The next afternoon, while Riccardi was examining stacks of pirated mixed by Ari cassettes and CDs, one of his officers informed him that a man named Arturo was waiting in his office. Arturo had made a decision. He was willing to become the key witness and expose the entire operation behind Mixed by Ari. In return, he wanted full immunity for his company, the same company that had been supplying the blank cassettes all along. At the very same time, Pepe, Ari, and Angelo were sitting with their father Pasquale, reviewing their earnings from the past 2 weeks. The total had reached 2 billion lira. Pepe asked their father if he was proud of how far his sons had come. Instead of answering directly, Pasquale simply asked them to help him mix fake liquor, just like the old days. For a moment, they were not powerful businessmen or targets of the police. They were just a family, laughing and remembering where they started. That night, as if he sensed what was coming, Ari finally fulfilled a promise he had long ignored. Before turning himself in, he created the compilation tape he had once promised to make for his beloved wife. And that same night, the three brothers were taken to prison. When they first walked in, something unexpected happened. The other inmates welcomed them enthusiastically. It turned out that fans of their compilation tapes were everywhere, even behind bars. A few weeks later, the day of the trial arrived. Just before entering the courtroom, their lawyer advised Ari not to admit guilt and not to reveal anything. The new law was still flawed, he argued. There was a strong chance they could walk free and even resume their business. Ari listened quietly. Part of him wanted freedom, but another part of him longed for peace. He was exhausted from constantly running, constantly hiding, always looking over his shoulder. The trial began. Teresa sat in the back of the courtroom. The judge read out a long list of charges. When it was over, the judge asked if Ari admitted guilt. As Ari looked at his wife, he felt an unexpected calm. He answered simply that he only ever wanted to be a DJ. In the end, the three brothers were sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison, and all their assets were confiscated. So the moral of the story is, if you mix beer with tea, copy 1,000,000 cassettes, fight the mafia, and ignore CDs, don't be shocked when life hits pause and sends you to prison.